All right. Hello and welcome to THR111. Today we're going to do an introduction on sound design and kind of find out what sound designers do. All right, let's get started. So these are kind of the main things that a sound designer does. And I'll kind of go over them one by one. So vocal and orchestral reinforcement can really kind of be melded into one. So a sound designer does a lot of reinforcement. And what I mean by reinforcement is pretty much amplifying sound. So vocal reinforcement is making sure people are heard with microphones, and similarly is done with orchestral, so making instruments heard. So just making sure everyone on stage can be heard is the job of a sound designer. And along with that, in a theatrical setting, a sound designer recreates sound, in which we call sound recreation. And they're making sounds that are either in the script or reinforce the script, or just kind of enhance the overall design of a show. And then lastly, something that you've probably heard before, which is Foley, which is manually producing sound effects live. This was done a lot back in silent movie times. It's still used pretty often. Today, I would say used pretty sparingly, but it's something that you've seen around for sure. And if you click on the word Foley, it should take you to a video. I won't play it here, but feel free to take a click there and watch a video on how Foley is done. It's really, really interesting and really fun. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about sound reinforcement and just kind of give you a general sense of how sound is used in the theater. So this is our basic sound system as far as how, let's say, a sound goes from a microphone out to the speakers. So the great thing about sound is that it has to start somewhere and end somewhere, where it usually starts by someone making a sound and then it ends by that sound being amplified, right? And so we usually start with what we call our input. And usually that is a microphone, or it can be a sound effect, right? It can be a sound effect from I don't know, from a Foley artist, or it can be from a computer or something like that. But we have some kind of input that's making a sound. And then that sound goes to what we call signal processing, which means that we're taking that sound and we're mixing it and we're processing it in order for it to be ready to be amplified. And how we do that is we send it through a mixer and then an amplifier. And so you can see that we have our mixer, and that's usually what you typically see a sound person, if they're behind one of those giant boards, right? Mixing away. That's what they're doing, is they're taking an input and they're processing it in order to it to be outputted properly and to sound good, right? And so it goes into a mixer, which mixes the level of the sound, and then it goes into something which we call an amplifier. And what it does is it pretty much takes that sound and then it amplifies it. It makes it loud enough so that whatever system you're sending it to can actually amplify it to the amount that you need it to. So if you're in a small room, it won't really take much amplification, where if you're in a giant theater, there might be more amplification in order to project someone's voice, right? So it depends on which space you're in. And then from the amplification, we go to our loudspeaker. Now, some loudspeakers actually, or what we call our output, sorry, and that can be anything from even headphones can be considered an output, right? Because the sound's going somewhere. So, but in a theatrical sense, it's usually some kind of loudspeaker. And with the advancements of technology, a lot of speakers are actually having amplifiers built into them because it's easier for them to transport them and stuff like that. But still, all sound systems kind of have these basic four elements, right? They have an input of some sort. They have some kind of signal processing, which includes a mixer and an amplifier, and then has some kind of output, right? So it's got to start somewhere, got to end somewhere with the sound system. So hopefully that gives you a general understanding of how a sound system works. Now with sound recreation, there's kind of all different types of sound recreation we can do. We have the first one, which is called spot effects. The spot effects are sounds that happen in a certain instance within, and usually specified in a script. So the doorbell going off, a telephone, a knock at the door, things that happen in the world that we need to happen in order for this to kind of create this world, right? So those are usually spot effects. And then next to that, we have our background ambience. And this includes things like, it really helps set a setting. So it might be birds outside, or a busy city street. It's just really helped. It's background ambience is used to help set a location, but it can also help set a mood or an atmosphere, right? Um, so if there's a if you know we're on a busy city street, in the background ambience of all the people walking and all the cars and stuff is really loud, it can send a really intense mood by just adjusting that volume. Um, so we create this ambience and this atmosphere by setting certain levels of background ambience. Um, and then next we have that is transitional sounds, and these are used to take us from one place to another in the script, and usually that can mean a scene change, right? It can be a passage of time. It's usually some sort of um, kind of internal clock within a show. So we're using music or sounds to help kind of transition from one place to another usually. And they're all of these highlighted um, images or words here. If you click on them, they take you to a link that kind of explains this a little more. So, and then the tools that we use for sound recreation are what we call digital audio workshops. So refer to them as DAWs. And they're really just a space where we can take audio, mix it, and create what we want out of it. Now there's thousands of different DAWs you can use. I've attached free ones if you're interested. So at least please look at the YouTube links to see how the how-to, kind of give you an understanding how, and these two are free to download, so if you're interested in. And then next, lastly, if you remember us talking about QLab a little bit, QLab is also used for audio. And if you have a Mac, QLab is free to use. There are lots of good tutorials. If you watch the tutorial about media, how it's used, it's pretty much used in the same way for audio. So if you could click one of those links and take a watch for me, that would be great. And then lastly, these are just more information about sound designers, what we do as sound designers, and such like that. So great. Thank you so much.